In this video, I'll show you how to make this amazing textured pattern using two colors of chunky yarn. I'll be using the crimson red as color A and the mint as color B, and I would also use a pair of 10mm knitting needles. Let's get started. Cast on an even number of stitches with color A. For me, color A would be red, and I have 16 stitches over here. Row 1 would be worked in color B, so right away attach the second color, that would be mint color for me, by simple knot at the very beginning of the row, like this. And we'll work row 1 in color B, that would be mint for me. Knit 1 stitch, and then work in pattern repeat. Knit 1 stitch, then slip 1 stitch with the yarn at the back of the work, like this. And repeat. Knit 1, slip 1. Knit 1, slip 1. Keep the yarn at the back of the work at all times, and then you'll get your pattern right. Knit 1, slip 1, and so on up until you come to the last stitch, and we'll knit that stitch. Here it is. Knit the last stitch, and row 1 is done. You would notice the patterning here. One stitch is in color B, the other one is in color A, and so on, except for the very beginning of the row when you have 2 stitches in color B. If you have the same thing on your needles, that means you're doing all right. Turn your work, and let's move on to row 2. We continue working with color B, that's mint in my case, and we knit the first stitch and then work in pattern repeat. Slip 1 stitch with yarn in front, so that means you bring the yarn to the front of the work and slip the stitch in color A. Then bring the yarn to the back of the work again for knitting and knit 1 stitch. And do it again. Bring the yarn to the front, slip a stitch, bring the yarn to the back, knit a stitch. And keep doing that until you come to the last stitch, and we will also knit that stitch. In this pattern, you knit every first and last stitch of every row. Knit, and here's the last stitch. We knit it, and row 2 is done. Turn your work. Now you see that at the beginning of the row we have both colors. That means it's time to change the color of the yarn. Put the color B aside, basically just put it down, and then bring the color A, the red one in my case, into the work for rows 3 and 4. Row 3, knit 1 stitch. This time I'm using color A, the red. Slip 1 stitch with yarn at the back, knit 1 stitch, and repeat this sequence. Slip 1 stitch with the yarn at the back, knit 1 stitch, slip, knit, slip, knit, and do so up until you come to the last stitch of the row, and we would knit that one. Knit, and here is the last stitch, and I knit it. See, we have that sequence again. 1 stitch is in color A, 1 stitch is in color B, and so on up until the very end of the row where we have 2 stitches in color A. Row 4, we continue working with the red, with the color A, and in row 4 knit 1 stitch and then work in the sequence of knit 1 and slip 1 with yarn in front. So we bring the yarn to the front of the work again, slip a stitch, bring the yarn to the back of the work for knitting, knit a stitch, yarn to the front, slip, yarn to the back, knit, slip, knit, and so on up until you come to the last stitch, and that one, guess what? It would be a knit. Here we go. This is the knit stitch. Turning work. Here's our pattern repeat, 4 rows. We need to repeat those rows to have a nice pattern with the beautiful texture and those little bumps in different colors. And every time that you see your yarns meet over here, that means it's time to change the color. Now I'm starting my second pattern repeat, and it's going to be done in color B, that's the mint. So I bring the color A down and bring the color B, the mint, for row 1 of the pattern repeat, and that would be knit 1 stitch and then the sequence of knit 1 and slip 1 with yarn in the back of the work. Keep doing that until you get a nice swatch with the stitch pattern on it. You would need to make about 3-4 pattern repeats to actually see how nice and cute this stitch pattern is. And this was row 4 of the pattern of my 5th pattern repeat. Let's look at the swatch. Now we can definitely see the beauty of this pattern. There are a few things that you need to keep in mind. First of all, the color work is lovely. It's really nice. It looks like a hat or mitts for a little one. The puffiness of the pattern gives the warmth. So a hat for a little one seems like a really good idea because the pattern is thick. You can see how thick and puffy and chunky it is, which is great. And in colder months, that would be quite nice to have a hat like that. Another thing is the pattern is not fully reversible, but you know what? The wrong side of the pattern doesn't look bad at all. That makes it good for a blanket. It would be nice to cuddle under a blanket like that. And another good thing about this pattern, it does not curl in any way. So it's quite sturdy, and that's another plus if you're making a blanket or a scarf or a cowl out of it. So get creative and happy knitting.